can't believe you've met Richard Gere.
Do you know that he's still packing in the ladies as well, Richard Gere?
He's packing them in? What does that mean?
I mean, there's a lot in the audience when I met him. There was a lot of ladies who'd fancied their chances that evening with Richard Gere.
I thought you meant he told you, I'm packing them in. The ladies, I've had enough.
Like, they weren't the... How do I put it with it being... How do I put it with
one
it
of the hottest. One of the youngest.
One of the... Like, if you're getting milk, it wasn't the freshest milk, if you know.
Jesus. Hello and welcome to CVXX. My name is Rab Florence. And this guy here is Ryan McLeod. Can you believe it?
Hello, I'm still Ryan McLeod.
Richard Gere's best friend.
After all these years.
Ryan McLeod. CVXX has been a smash hit. Guft have got in touch with us. They're offering to produce a Christmas party for us this year. So we're going to have our first ever official Guft CVXX
Happy Guftmas
Christmas party. And Guft just want us to pass on to you our thanks for being such great supporters of the show. Just remember to spread the word. Join our Patreon. Click link and describe. Link on the clicks and describe everything.
Subscribe to the links.
Now, Ryan, we're still in 1987. It's part 2 of 1987.
Rutger Hauer.
Can we get a wee shot of Rutger there? Dead now, of course. Dead now.
Sad end.
A fantastic figure of the 1980s, also the 1990s, but he's kind of in a lot of shite after the 80s. And who is this on the front?
It's Kim Basinger.
It is Kim...
Or Basinger.
Basinger, I would say. Who...
Did you know who Kim Basinger was before the Batman film? I don't think I did.
Did I know who she was? I think she was still Kim Basinger before the Batman
film's not out yet. It's not out until next year, I don't think.
I know it's out in 1989, actually, the Batman film.
It was one out.
We'll talk about that later. Kim Basinger, though, during the production of the Batman film, which might have started filming around about 87, 88, you know, I'm sure she maybe was auditioning in 1987 to be in the Batman film, but that date with Destiny, her audition for Batman, would lead to her having sex with Prince.
As all roads in Hollywood lead.
All roads in Hollywood, or all roads in wherever Sheena Easton was for. Where was Sheena Easton for?
Castle Milk?
I don't know. Castle Milk, maybe. All roads from Castle Milk lead to having sex with Prince. I don't know whether Sheena Easton had sex with Prince or not. So I would like to, if Sheena, if you're out there, if you would like to get in touch, let us know. Did you have sex?
Can you send us a fax, Sheena, with your...
do we have a P.O. box address?
Mailing address or your P.O. box, so that we can get in touch and see if you've had any sexual relations with Prince.
Stick it up on the screen. Sheena Easton, if you could mail us there and just let us know if you had sex with Prince. If you don't want to talk about it, if you don't want to kiss and tell, that's fine. Prince is, of course, I would like to acknowledge, also in the grun.
No longer with us. We're going to stick to the format of having a couple of TV things, a film thing, and games
and
on
a whole
top
load of games.
I was saying to you there before we started recording, Robert, that the things happening with the games now, I've got 6 games in front of me I'm looking at here, and I remember every single one of them. And I remember them all fondly as well.
Which is good, because
switched on.
There were games I played 3 years ago that I don't have any memory of. So it's nice to hear. It's nice to hear. Ryan, would you like to tell us about one of those games? Why don't we start with you talking about one of your wee games?
Why don't we talk about it?
I like your bow tie, by the way, and I also like your shirt.
Thanks very much. Got it off the internet. You've heard of the internet? Oh, you're on it right now. Yeah,
but we can't talk about the internet. Can I just say something about 1987 I was thinking about while I was driving to the Guft installation? I use maps because, just to clarify for everybody, I know it looks like we're in the same set every time we do this show. It looks like we're sitting in the same set. This isn't actually the same set. Guft like to move from facility to facility, so they send us the
quite obscure addresses as well.
Quite obscure addresses. So they send us the address.
The shutter in the front there that only lifted up like a third way. We had to kind of duck under.
A wee crawl in. That's fine.
It's fine. I don't mind.
But I was thinking on the way here when I put the address into maps, I was thinking to myself, how did people in 1987 know where anything was? So if somebody said you have to go and pick up a thing from Renfrew, from somewhere in Renfrew, and you get in your car, then what? I'm being serious. I'm being quite serious. Then what? You would drive to where you know the motorway is, right? Well, I know the motorway is I get onto it that way, and then you get on the motorway. Then
map. When you'd have a paper map to start with, maybe, would you?
So you would consult a paper map before you get into your car?
Any of the answers. Sorry?
You would consult a paper map before you get into the car?
Possibly.
Right, and then you would work it. How would you remember? See, when you look at the...
I was 9 in 1980. If you'd said Renfrew to me, I would have just like, is that...
But I don't remember being in cars with people back in 1987 when they would go somewhere. I don't remember them ever consulting a paper map.
No, that's true.
So what did they do? So they go on the motorway, they maybe say, right, that's the turn off for this. So they go off the turn off, then what? They're in the area of Renfrew, let's say, then what? How do they know where a street is?
I don't know. I don't have any answers for you, mate.
I find that
you're going to have to ask. I'm going to have to interact with other humans. I think is the only solution. I
do have a memory. This is the thing I was thinking. Though I was going, I don't have a memory of anybody consulting a map before they went anywhere, but I do have a memory of something that doesn't happen anymore.
Do you know where?
It's winding down your window, and going, mate. Do you know where Gavin Street is? I remember that.
Was he there?
Okay. Then take 2 up, that way you got take a left. Take up to the left. I wish you could get that guy on Google Maps, on your navigator thing.
Voice
I wish you could get that voice and see the take a left at the next. I wish it'd be up there to the left. Take one, second one.
No, that one.
Hold on.
No, that one.
Hold on, I'm
Have you tried that Rangers pub?
I'm rang. Come back. Anyway, Ryan, sorry, talk about your game.
I would like to talk about Airwolf on the ZX Spectrum, thanks.
Okay.
I've tricked yous. Airwolf actually came out in 1984, and that is the one that I remember and love, even though most people moan about it and say it was too fucking hard. But this is Airwolf 2. In Airwolf 2, you're a helicopter, but you appear to be in space. There's alien, big mechanical, long-legged men, deadly bubbles. Many of you of a similar age to me will remember the episode of Airwolf, I think it was Series 2, where the helicopter flew through space and around bubbles, and Ernest Borgnine made a face when he saw an alien craft flying towards him. What the fuck is this game? Stages change colour like they do in Penetrator. In fact, a lot of the sound effects sound a wee bit like Penetrator as well. You've got a laser that you get in Defender. It kind of plays a bit like Defender. But what is it? What has this got to do with Airwolf? What's a telescanner? Since when did Airwolf have smart bombs? Everything about this game is a mystery. What you're looking at here, I mean, I know you know what you're looking at, but I'm just going to say it out loud. What you're looking at here is an Airwolf game that had Ernest Borgnine, Jean-Michael Vincent and 80s women. This game's got nothing to do with it, but they've called it Airwolf 2. This game was made in its entirety, this is the case that I'm putting forward, in its entirety, aside from the avatar that is now a helicopter, and they've changed whatever the original avatar was to a helicopter and called it Airwolf 2. Gameplay wise, I'd say Airwolf 2 is actually, it's alright. I've played far worse Spectrum games. Far worse. I've always enjoyed shooting the awards. I enjoyed that in the first one as well, even though the first one was rock hard. This isn't as hard as the first one. I mean, it's rubbish. That is actually quite a good ending to this, actually. It is rubbish. Back to the studio. Yeah, have you ever played Airwolf?
Weirdly, I have a memory of you playing it. Now, obviously, we didn't know each other. We didn't know each other when you were a kid. I
was thinking about this as well. The reason why I wore this nice shirt is because I was actually thinking, due to these experiments that Guffs are doing, they're immersing us in the past, if there's any chance that it overlaps with 9-year-old Ryan for then, I want them to see that I'm kind of making the effort and stuff like that and things are going alright. That's what was my actual thought process.
Well, I hope 9-year-old, like 10-year-old me doesn't see what I look like.
What, you look exactly the same.
I just like to say that I weighed in this morning. The Guff have put me on a carb-free diet. So I weighed in this morning and I've actually lost 1.7 pounds.
Well done.
But Guff are going to look into getting me some Ozempic. Because even though the doctors have told me I'm fine, Guff have told me I look as if I'm pre-diabetic.
I find a lot of their techniques far more advanced than regular techniques, Guff, so I would go with their advice, I think.
Yeah. Did you watch the Airwolf TV show?
Oh, I sure did. I don't. I've just realised I don't remember the tune. No, I did.
Yeah. What was the name of the guy? Jean-Michael Vincent.
That's a guy. I think he was nuts or something, didn't he? Ernest Borgnine that was in it as well.
Listen, that's a name to conjure with, that, isn't it? And who used to say that? A name to conjure with? David Dickinson and Bargain Hunt would say.
What did he say about?
When it was a Clarice Cliff.
Clarice Cliff glass. That was a name to conjure with.
But we'll get to Bargain Hunt's way down the line. We'll get to Bargain Hunt when we get there. Yeah, Airwolf, that's a good one. Can I talk about a wee game before we move on to TV stuff and all of that? Because I was noticing that recently it was announced, and I'm talking about recently, now in modern times, it was announced that a kind of re-release or a modern port of The Last Ninja is coming out, which was a Commodore 64, a game I played on the Commodore 64 that was highly praised for its aesthetics, for its look, for its graphics, for its. I didn't want to say the word graphics on the show, but I'm going to have to say it. The word graphics. It was a kind of isometric ninja game where you would move around this kind of ninja palace, taking guys out, and it really did look incredible for the time. But I don't remember enjoying the game very much.
Okay,
that's interesting.
You're going to go and have a look at that?
Yeah, let's have a wee peek at The Last Ninja. The Last Ninja was developed and published by System 3 in 1987, came out in the Commodore 64, was a huge smash. It was celebrated, this game, about the ninja coming to battle the evil shogun Kunitoki, to assassinate him, to kill him. It was celebrated as an incredible adventure, isometric. You can target different body parts, incredibly sophisticated for the time, great graphics. However, when you're a wee guy, 10 years old, remember I was in 1987, you play games, you engage with games differently for your day when you're a grown-up. So I basically just made the wee ninja guy dance. This is The Last Ninja dance. I hope you like it. Right, I better show you some of the actual game though. As you move from screen to screen, and it is impressive, let's be honest here, this isometric action. Remember, listen, I don't want to keep casting this up, but remember some people were still playing their Spectrums at this point, right? This is really impressive stuff. But look at the combat here. My dance partner isn't really wanting to boogie with me, so you have to try and fight. And you can pull off different moves, punches, kicks. You can do somersaults and stuff like that. This was all way too much for me when I was a wee guy. It was all way too much for me. You also could pick items up and use items. They really did make a great effort at making a kind of grand adventure game for the time. But it's strange, innit? Because it almost felt like a leap too far for me when I was 10 years old. And I think that's why I don't remember The Last Ninja with any great fondness. I definitely remember it with a sense of respect. Like, I remember how well regarded the game was. I remembered the fact that you would load it up and you would go, wow, this game looks fucking nothing like any other game that's out there. But I also remember that every time I started playing it, I would think to myself, I don't want to be here. I don't want to be here yet. You know? This was the type of game I just didn't want to play at the time. And I kind of respected it from a distance. I would load it up and I would maybe navigate through 5 or 6 screens, fight a couple of baddies. But in the end, I would always end up going back to just doing my wee ninja dance. I mean, for all this game got right, moments like this, very early in the game, just getting across these rocks, it's just no really fun. It just isn't really fun. It's impressive. It's impressive because you're kind of navigating a world in a way that you normally don't on a Commodore 64, but it just wasn't really fun. No, for me anyway. No as fun as dancing. That's The Last Ninja, which again is coming out in a nice pack. You may
What are they doing
benefit
it? Are they doing it until?
Well, you can get it on the Switch special edition, and I think it comes with International Karate and IK Plus and stuff like that. It looks like a delicious wee package. Anyway, we're not advertising it.
I walked past a framing shop the other day in the south side of Glasgow, which is quite a wee trendy spot these days. I was walking through Battlefield, and there was a framing shop that had a frame that was one of the sunken frames, and it had a Biffy Clyro tape in the frame, and I went, oh, for fuck's sake. But actually, if you replace that with a ZX Spectrum game, I'd be like,
It's particularly odd that, because like regardless of whatever you think of Biffy Clyro, right, Biffy Clyro are not of the tape generation.
I know, that's what I mean. There's layers of, for fuck's
layers of for fuck's sake about that. But this is the interesting thing about it, and I think this is a big reason why Guft is doing this experiment, is that all of these things are merging. Vinyl's back in a big way. I saw a guy in the street with a Walkman the other day. I actually felt quite envious. Like a proper batteries, Walkman, earphones.
Depends on the headphones. I'm not going back to the foamy things that just float on top of the ears.
He had wee foamy ones with a metal band, which I know that's garbage, but it still kind of looked good, and it still gave me a nice memory. Sometimes the Walkman, we could talk about the Walkman. What year did the Walkman? It was definitely, people definitely had a Walkman in 1987.
That's around about the time I remember. I have pictures of me one Christmas with a nice Adidas grey trackie on and my new Walkman, and I was listening to Status Quo, but I was around about 9.
Yeah, I think they're quite early Walkman. I think they came out quite early, so I think people have had them for a fair few years by this point. And the cool thing about a Walkman was, so I remember when I got Parade by Prince on CD for the first time, and I realised
that wasn't in 1986, which was when it was.
No. This was later when I got it on CD for the first time. Parade, right? But I realised that the tape of Parade that I'd been listening to in my Walkman for years, there must have been something wrong with my Walkman, because Parade was slightly faster when I heard it on CD. So I'd always been hearing it at a slightly slower pace. You know what I mean? Still brilliant, but just slightly slower. It was quite a surprise. So because even in my head just now, if I think of something like, and it happened with Around the World in a Day by Prince as well, because when I think about Pop Life in particular, that runs really slow in my memory, but is faster in reality.
He does play with the speed in Pop Life. He does do it in some songs, doesn't he? But I don't think he does the speed
in Pop Life. I think he did.
Just thinking about how Prince did that in certain songs. So certain B-sides he played with the speed of the song by a song that I heard by Chappelle Roan. Do you know who that is?
Yeah.
Some lassie. Somebody for the model. Some like 20-year-old. Aye. But she finishes one of her songs with kind of slowing it down. It really reminded me of Prince doing it a few times.
In Pop Life, I think he
changes channels.
One channel drags behind the other channel, I think. Yeah, well, there you go. Sorry. So that was what was that? The Last Ninja? I don't know. What was that? Tapes?
Prince. Everything leads back to Prince.
Everything leads back to Prince. What do you want to do first, Ryan, in terms of TV or film? Like, what do you fancy approaching first?
Let's have a look. We haven't mentioned that we're around the time of year of Halloween. Maybe that's significant. Should we maybe talk about?
We are around the time of year of Halloween. And for that reason, we selected as one of our viewing treats. Both touching our glasses. One of our viewing treats for this episode, the Paul Daniels Halloween special.
From 1987.
From 1987. For those of you who aren't aware, our international audience, Paul Daniels was a magician, an English magician who was a constant on TV in the UK from the mid to late 70s onwards, all throughout the 80s into the 90s. He was also a touring magician. He was also, it has to be said, an absolutely brilliant magician, like a great magician, and a total shagger. He was a notorious shagger. He claimed to sleep with how many women? Like a lot of women, right?
I've not heard any patter around that. I just know that he married well and well above his station.
Well,
But how could you be that successful and well known and no?
He was also touring. He was touring the length and breadth of the country, and I'm sure all across Europe and into America and stuff. And he was a magician, and he had the patter. He had the patter, Paul Daniels. He could talk. He was really a brilliant. I mean, for anything, no matter what you want to say about Paul Daniels.
See, there it is. There's a wee open door that I was looking for there.
What was the wee open door?
No matter what you've got to say about him. There you go.
No matter what you've got.
Can I get through that door?
Aye, go. I know Ryan will be coming through that door. But what you have to say, right, before anything else, is when it comes to what his job actually is, which is magic, right, performing magic and presenting a telly show.
He's
superb.
I wrote down, because we've had, I mean, you've had a lot more experience in telly than me, but I've had a brush with telly experience, and I was watching how he was doing it. I was going, he's fucking good. He's a good presenter.
Yes.
He's holding this whole thing together. He's good. Let's jump right in, both feet. Do you like Paul Daniels, do you think?
See, it's an interesting thing because I loved the Paul Daniels show when I was a kid.
I definitely don't remember registering as much as I register now watching him, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, me and my
about
me and my dad watched it, right? And we both loved it. My dad loved magic, and so it was always on. If a Paul Daniels show was on, we'd be watching it. It's an interesting thing. Ryan asked there, do you like him? I'm going to come back at you with something else there, Ryan.
Do you like yourself, Ryan?
do you need to like him?
In an entertainment show, it would be preferable. It would be preferable.
I think this is a kind of modern.
Imagine the presenter of this show was. There will be somewhere out in the multisphere an alternate timeline where there's an amazing close at hand magician who's also Les Dawson. So imagine Les Dawson is presenting this show. Can you feel the difference?
I can feel the difference, but I feel like it wouldn't be the same. I think it's really hard to think of a magician who's your friend. Because even if you think of magicians like Penn and Teller, they have a kind of almost like smart-ass, kind of superior vibe to them. Mm-hmm. You think about David Blaine, he's the weirdo out on the street.
This is true, there always has to be a kind of distance.
There is a distance to them. There's a kind of, I think it's almost part of the magic routine a wee bit, is that they are kind of other than us. Or superior to us, guys like David Copperfield. They all have a kind of strangeness and a distance about them, and I think but I also think from a TV point of view, I was thinking about this, but the likability factor. Almost everybody you see presenting on telly nowadays does try to be your friend a wee bit, you know.
Watch telly,
and it started with guys
when they made Rylan famous. I went, I'm off. I
like Big Rylan. I think
I like Rylan. That's me. I'm going up a hill.
But when it you know, I think it started maybe with guys like Michael Barrymore and stuff, just a kind of, you know, I'm your friend, that kind of vibe. Whereas I think there was maybe a wee bit, I remember my dad would talk about Bruce Forsyth when he would present stuff back in the 70s, and my dad says, I like it when Bruce Forsyth's presenting a telly programme because he's brilliant at it, but he's an arsehole. You know what I mean? Mm. And I think there was a kind of different thing about presenting TV back then. There's even we were saying it about, you know, It's a Knockout. He came across like an arsehole as well. Stuart Hall, obviously, he's a monster of a man as well. But I think there was maybe just a different approach to TV presenting back in the day that wasn't so about friendliness or likability.
True.
Maybe more about talent.
2 minutes 20 I've written down here that it's the bit when Debbie McGee was floating about in the air, but just at the end of the routine at 2 minutes 20 you could see the motor judder, so she just kind of
there's a slight
in mid-air she just kind of judders.
There's a slight wee judder. Now it has to be said, right, I want to say, I'll be honest with you, Ryan, right,
I thought the satanic symbols were a bit full on as well for this.
A lot of satanic symbols. Not to spoil anything.
Daniel's the devil.
I thought this is a cracking episode of telly.
I've thoroughly enjoyed it, but we might have to discuss the reasons as to why I enjoyed it.
Oh yeah,
certain other things that not Paul Daniels related.
I just want to see, first of all, BBC logo transforms into a pumpkin at the start. This is one of these kind of things that you wouldn't get nowadays.
It felt like that.
From a branding point of view or something, to go, no, we can't.
Also,
sorry, we can't transform the logo.
Because we don't know if the logo's going to be on at 6 o'clock.
It's the branding department.
We just can't do it.
And also, this show starts and is completely wordless for the first.
I liked the title sequence. Thought the kind of homemade title sequence.
Spooky, kind of almost Tales of the Unexpected style, kind of that spooky vibe, but it was completely wordless for the first 4 or 5 minutes. Can you imagine tuning into a TV show on the BBC and the first 4 or 5 minutes of the show are completely wordless? If that show was made nowadays, right at the start, Paul Daniels would have said, I'm Paul Daniels. Tonight, you'll see me levitating Debbie McGee. I'll be joined by blah, blah, blah.
Here's
like you're
a
a fucking
highlight
idiot.
clip of what you'll be watching.
Aye. You'll see me turning on a CRT TV, which we'll get to in a minute. And, which,
Prime time
telly. But I was absolutely staggered by the fact it was wordless, just with music, just with electronic music for the first 4 or 5 minutes. Well, I was astonished by that.
It was good. I really enjoyed it overall.
An owl flies in. An owl flies in and lands right beside him.
He got rid of that pretty sharp, didn't he,
Yeah,
Daniels? You could hear it off stage protesting.
He said the owl's name was Elsie, and then he said, well, that's not its real name, by the way, that's just its initials, which I really laughed at. But I've also felt like I didn't really quite get it either. Do you know what I mean? But I thought it was really funny. Right, so first of all, sorry, Ryan, when you recommended that we watch a show, it was Ryan's idea, says we should take a look at this. I didn't know it was live.
No, I nailed that.
Until he said this is live, and then I was like, what the fuck, man? This is live?
Which completely explains the next thing that I'd written down, because he goes around some guests. I think they've got the local guests of the community kind of in the studio.
Well, they have the chief superintendent of the Surrey Police Force there.
That's such a Partridge get-together that he's
Really
got in the
is.
studio, and he has a few kind of brief, awkward chats with people.
Yep.
But it being live TV, I mean, if I was to attempt that, it would be worse than awkward.
Can you see that he's a shagger just for that
The
moment?
way he carries himself.
When he goes to, what's her name? Anne, Weakest Link.
Robinson.
Anne Robinson, and he's just kind of saying, oh, you're good looking. He basically tells Anne Robinson, you're good looking, aren't you? And and Debbie McGee's right there, by the way. Now, I don't know at what stage the relationship was. I'm not sure whether the relationship was official. She doesn't speak at all at any point. But we'll come. There's a great moment with Debbie McGee later, which we'll come to. Sorry, Ryan, carry. What have you got for me?
What have I got? I really liked at 11 minutes when Daniel stopped because in this show they have. It reminded us. Maybe I've not seen enough TV, but it reminded a wee bit of the show that we've made in the past, Video Guiding, because the segments were very kind of. What's the best way of putting it? They were very self-enclosed. They were kind of like wee story. There was wee story segments throughout the half hour or 40 minutes, the duration of the show. And about 6-7 minutes in, Paul Daniels does the first one, and it concludes with the rain pouring behind him in the studio against the window. And I really liked that wee touch. And as I say, it reminded me of kind of things that we've done in the past.
Like a kind of discreet, self-contained. So he basically does 3 magical effects. You notice I said magic. I didn't say magic tricks. I said magical effects.
Are they all Houdini?
Well,
one of them is.
Yeah, he's built a Houdini story around presenting these kind of 3 traditional magic effects, but it's really well constructed, you know. And he does this whole thing about it was a cloudless night, and then it started raining, and then on cue the rain starts outside, and it's a beautiful wee bit of business. I think.
It's just when he's doing it again, don't harp on about it too much. Obviously he's very experienced by this point, but I'm just imagining the position he's in, and he's sitting in a studio. Everybody in that studio is staring at him. Everything hinges on him, and it's just I thought he did it very, very in a very accomplished manner.
He also has a guest on it, right? A guy called Eugene Berger, who's...
Oh my God. I've seen a documentary about that comedian before. That guy.
A magician.
Mm-hmm.
He's a comedy magician, though. You're kind of right. So I was wanting to do it. I said to myself, I need to read up on this guy, and then I forgot to do it. So do you have any information about him?
No, I don't.
Is he still kicking a ball, or is he in the ground?
I'm not sure. Actually.
We'll need to check. Anyway.
I suspect the latter.
But this was another thing we need to say about Paul Daniels for anybody that doesn't know, for the young team. One of the reasons why Paul Daniels' magic show was so special, I think, why it was genuinely such a great show, his regular weekly show, was that he would have the best magicians in the world on that show as guests. He would fly them in for anywhere, and I'm talking about like people who didn't speak English, you know, people for Eastern Europe, people who have the best magic acts for America.
This is also like, it's also a time where like this network that he's connected to, we're like, there's no internet. Like this is like this is on you to us. These people are coming out of the ether, seemingly like he's conjuring these people for the ether. But he knows so many astonishing, not just magicians but performers as well. I suppose that comes with the job, doesn't it?
Obviously, Paul Daniels grew to have a kind of reputation as a bit of an old bastard, right? That was kind of, but I don't know how much of that was true or how much of that was his politics.
Pre or post Louis Theroux kind of time documentary
I think it was in that kind of modern era, and I don't know whether it was his politics or whether it was just that he cultivated that kind of persona over the years, that was his shtick. But I think it suggests a lot of real kind of generosity, a spirit that you would have your prime time. He didn't need to get the guests on his prime time magic show. And you bring out a magician for America or for Bulgaria or something and put them on primetime Saturday night TV when Paul Daniels was probably getting, I don't know, millions and millions of viewers he'll have been getting. They could tour the UK on the back of that. You know what I mean? It's an incredible generosity of spirit. So I don't know if that says something about the guy or it says something about the magic community maybe.
Also, aware in any way of what kind of hoops they're having to jump through to get onto that show. You don't know what he's asking for behind the scenes.
Well, that's true. That's true. It's also great, by the way. Can I just say it's great when you have this kind of mystical opening to this show and all the atmosphere and stuff, and then he starts talking, and that kind of northern English kind of accent is great. Hello, everybody. It's kind of
like he's especially when he's surrounded with all the people in costume and stuff like that, and then he just hits it with that voice.
Yeah, and he's just a kind of wee English guy. Now there's a trick he does, Ryan, which I'm sure fascinated you as much as it fascinated
Which one?
Which was a trick involving a camcorder, which was new on the scene. A VHS video recorder.
I did enjoy the show, but
a Panasonic CRT TV. Hold on, Ryan. All powered by battery, not plugged into the mains. And before we discuss it, I'll explain what happens. There's a story in this house of a ghost that appears and walks through these doors, passes through these closed doors. Paul Daniels, now remember we're watching this live, this is broadcast live, so Paul Daniels sets up all this gear, he sets up the camcorder, he sets up the VHS recorder, now he also has to assist him in this an incredibly sexy looking woman for Panasonic. So there's a sexy lady for Panasonic called, I believe, Melanie from Panasonic. Shout out to Melanie for Panasonic. Melanie for Panasonic, if you're still kicking a ball.
You're not in the grun, Melanie.
If you're not in the grun, send us a letter to the P.O. Box and tell us about your experience with Paul Daniels. We'd love to hear about that. We'd love to hear what he was like. And we'd love to hear how this trick worked, right? Because he had all this set up, and then on the live broadcast, we saw the grandfather clock go, and he was going to trick the ghost into appearing. The grandfather clock struck 12 midnight, something smashed, and then we didn't see anything happen, right? And he was filming this on the wee camcorder. Then they rewound the tape and they pressed play on the camcorder, and on the CRT TV we saw an exact...
No as instant as that. He played play on the tape and then we watched the whole fucking segment there again. Paul Daniels is stunning watching this monitor.
But crucially, we did see the whole segment again exactly as it had played out on the live broadcast that we were watching, except this time the image of a ghost appeared and walked through the closed doors. Ryan.
No, it was astonishing. I believe in ghosts now because of that.
Listen,
I couldn't believe the length of it, man. The length of the segment. It was a nice wee effect at the end, but...
Listen, I need to say, you need to watch this. You need to watch this Paul Daniels Halloween special to see this segment. Because first of all, if you're somebody who's been a fan of your prior work, you're probably just excited seeing a CRT TV. Anyway, you're probably thinking, what consoles can I connect to that? So that's exciting. You're going to get to see sexy Melanie for Panasonic, right? This is what's great about this show. I feel like if this was on the telly, I wouldn't be allowed to say sexy Melanie for Panasonic. Sexy Melanie for Panasonic is there, and this effect, which really, the more I thought about it, the more I thought this at the time this would have, and even now, this is quite a start. I loved it.
The show, you mean? Or
No,
that segment. That segment. That was a nice effect. It was a nice segment.
Because it's really weird to do a trick using technology like that as well, though, isn't it? It's like...
Aye, but I mean, the setup was you were making to be kind of blown away by the technology, but you're seeing, I was just seeing stuff that you see at car boot sales. Like, oh, you
But
don't
they didn't even... But the weird thing was they didn't even play it out like that. They didn't have, like, people clapping that were there or anything. It was a weird kind of low-key end.
The show was kind of unusual.
Oh, very unusual.
Because even, like, the ending...
Right, we'll get to that.
Well, no, I don't think we've spent enough time talking about how brilliant Eugene Berger is. Because
go for it, take it.
He has, is it 2 segments he has?
Yes.
Aye, he just has a real class about him, and he hods the audience so well. I did notice when sometimes he was hodding cards, he looked like he had a wee bit of nerve about him, but
nerves or an alky tremor.
Could be, bit of both, bit of the Frank Sidebottom effect.
Yeah.
But the segments were just so polished and professional, and also kind of really entertaining, the tricks that he was doing.
Yeah, he did a type of...
I'm assuming these are the types of things that he tours on stage. And
yeah.
He's bringing like probably an edited down version onto Paul Daniels' show.
He did a type of close-up magic called Spirit Theatre, I think he called it, where it was almost like, instead of just basic close-up magic, he was trying to almost make like a kind of spectacle on the table, and he had kind of clever ways of doing it. And he's like...
He was talking about, it wasn't Buddhism, was it? It was...
Yellow cotton thread, a single length, which will represent the entire universe. In Hindu mythology, it is the god Brahma who creates the universe and all that there is. Brahma then retires.
Oh yeah, the story he told at the...
but it was just a really simple trick that you've seen before so many times, where either things have been cut up, but he did it with a piece of thread and a candle, where he burnt the thread until it was many, many pieces, and then it became one piece again.
Yeah. And it's you genuinely got the vibe as well that, Paul Daniels got this guy on the show because he's a fan.
Aye.
He's a fan of the guy's work.
I think he said as much at once.
There's something really warm about that, I think, as well, So we had it's a wee bit like the setup here. It's almost like a kind of Jules Holland hootenanny for magic kind of vibe, the way those celebrities sitting about. It's kind of weird, but obviously... I
think there's 2 celebrities sitting about. That was Anne Robinson and John Humphreys. That was it.
And the mayor of England.
Oh, aye, and the guy for Surrey Police.
Right, so the final effect on the show was Paul Daniels wanted to do a Houdini-esque
I really enjoyed the show overall, and I really liked Eugene, and I really liked the segments. I thought that wasn't the strongest segment to end on, but obviously they end on it because the very ending of it, but I just found it a bit... It was basically... all set up is the thing. It was all set up, and then there was a bit at the end. But I just found the building of tension wasn't as effective.
So to tell you what he does, he has this big Iron Maiden, and he kind of explains how it works. And he says this thing's going to fill up with ball bearings and pull a weight down, and when the weight pulls down, the Iron Maiden's going to slam shut.
Big spikes.
And if a man is in there when that door slams shut, he's a goner. The spikes are real, metal, clang, 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 all of that kind of stuff. He gets in, and there's a beautiful bit of performance here. There's a beautiful bit of theatre where he's saying to everybody, look, if anything goes wrong here, just stay in your seats.
Let the BBC staff.
Let the BBC staff deal with anything that happens here is no fault of yours. All of that kind of stuff. He asks Debbie McGee
to leave the room.
It's a beautiful bit of theatre, man. I thought that was brilliant. He asked Debbie McGee to leave the room in case he dies. And ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you how this show ends, right? Big spoiler, but you need to watch it for yourself. This show ends, he doesn't do the trick. He doesn't do the trick on his big magic show. He doesn't do the effect. He kind of does it, right? But he goes inside it and he runs out of time and the big door slams shut. And you hear the director going, oh, could everyone leave the room, please? And it ends.
Just titles on black.
Titles on black. And silence. But then at the end of the credits, did you see the end of the credits? Paul Daniels pops up.
Aye, but it's pre-recorded though.
But that's beautiful as well, because you think he's going to go, don't worry, I survived it. But what he actually says is, this is a pre-recorded, but I hope that trick goes well tomorrow.
Nudge, nudge, wink.
It's great stuff. And so I was reading about this. So when it was broadcast on Halloween night, when that went out, after it was a repeat of Monty Python's Flying Circus.
Right.
It went on. And during the repeat of Monty Python's Flying Circuits, it went on, the BBC switchboard was on fire with people phoning in to check if Paul Daniels was all right, right? And they had, because of that, they had Paul Daniels, who was obviously still in the live studio, they had Paul Daniels shoot a wee bit that they broadcast to come on after Monty Python to say, look, all right.
That's so, I don't know, there's just something so analogue and in touch that I like about that.
Yeah, it's kind of beautiful because people just wouldn't, people just wouldn't respond to that these days.
Aye.
But also, I genuinely think
It's really shows how much attention you've got for people and shows like that I don't know if you have these.
you just can't get it these days.
Maybe in a cinema, maybe.
You just can't get it these days. But also, the BBC would not broadcast it these days. The BBC, you wouldn't. If you say to the BBC, everybody's going to think. Well, some people are going to think I've died at the end of this. They're going to go, well, that's not going out. It's a different culture now. It's a different. They just would not,
because it offends dead people.
So that was the Paul Daniels.
I liked it a lot.
I liked it a great deal. Paul Daniels Halloween special, 1987, and I actually did. I didn't know that it had this amazing ending. And I'm thinking to myself, why did I not watch this at the time? Because we were a bit of Paul Daniels Magic Show house. My ma didn't like him right enough. Maybe we were doing something for Halloween or something like that and missed it. But
did you catch the wee bit where Paul says, "Don't get Debbie to do that; she'll ask for more money"?
Aye. Aye. No, I was they were cheering her or something or clapping her or something. So right, that's enough. She'll ask for more money. Beautiful. He's used that line many a time on the stage. So sadly, Paul Daniels in the ground now. Debbie McGee though still kicking a ball.
Has she rehooked up with any other?
I don't know. Listen, I'm meaning this when I say this, and I mean it quite sincerely. Who could follow him really? Like, see if he'd been with Paul. I bet he was a total buzz, that guy. I just have a feeling that somebody who's a magician like that, you would have a great time with that person, I think.
Thinking about all the close hand techniques.
Listen.
And I can see a lot of benefits.
Absolutely. I want to talk about one of my favourite games. This was a game that when I was a kid, right? When I was a kid, my sister, my mum worked as a geriatric nurse in Stop Hill Hospital in Glasgow. So she did a lot of night shifts.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, she did a lot of night shifts. She did that for years and years and years. And she would go out, so she would be away overnights a lot of the time. So when my sister ultimately moved out the house, I would spend quite a lot of nights when my mum was at work. I would spend a lot of nights with my sisters. This was one of my sister's favourite games as well, when I used to take my computer run to my sister's. And it's a game called Metro Cross. First of all, I'd like to thank my daughter Hope for the assist on recording these videos. This is Metro Cross, a Namco game that released on the Commodore 64 in 1987. It was, of course, an arcade game before that. This game is an absolute banger. This was a big hit in my house back in the day, and it was a big hit with almost everybody in my family as we all challenged each other to be the best Metro Crosser. And often back in those days, the challenge would be about making tea and toast. So the person who got the best score or who lasted longest in Metro Cross would be the one that got up and made the tea and toast. And this was in the past. This was when we all used to have margarine because people told us that butter was bad for us and that margarine was better. And now it actually turns out that you're better eating actual butter than eating margarine. These were the kind of tricks they used to play on you in the past. So you'd have your toast with your margarine on it, and you'd have a nice cup of tea that went with that milk. You know, the milk that came in glass bottles that had the big thick cream up the top. That's bad for you as well, it turns out now. It turns out it's all bad for you. But what isn't bad for you is Metro Cross. A really, really brilliant game. One of the most tragic things about CVXX, and it is a V, folks, one of the most tragic things is when you play old games that you used to be really good at. I used to be really good at Metro Cross, and I'll remind you that my daughter Hope is filming this segment, and she is watching how shite I am now at Metro Cross, how shite I am at this game. that I used to be brilliant at. Look, I couldn't even get on that skateboard there, and let me tell you, in Metrocross, it's essential to get on these skateboards. Every level in Metrocross is just like this. It's like a race to the finish. It's a race to the finish with more and more obstacles appearing as you go. The game is often criticised by people because you kind of have to memorise the routes a wee bit in order to get good at it, but fuck's sake, man, give us peace. It's still a cracking bit of fun, and for a game of this time as well, it just hangs together so well, controls so well. There's really nothing you can complain about, even in the modern times. You just need to make sure you've got a decent joystick to play it with, and I have. Click, click, click. Cut. So that's Metrocross. Just a fantastic game. Played this game to death. My sister got really good at it. Me and my sister used to go, and me and my sister and my sister's man used to have proper.
Talking C64 here.
Yeah.
I didn't see the clip. The clip's no being. We can't go into it.
No, don't go into that. That's like a Paul Daniels thing. That's like a Paul Daniels thing. That didn't happen live. I would love to do a show where people think I died at the end of it.
Why can you know?
Because
Guft Industries sponsors the next segment, which is about, you need to pick the next segment so that I know what it's about. What is the next segment about?
The next segment is about the Cook Report.
Guft Industries sponsors the next segment about the Cook Report for 1987. I love this show.
The Cook Report. So Roger Cook was this fat guy.
Who the fuck is Roger Cook? Sorry, well, who is he?
This fat
Where
guy.
did he come from?
So Roger Cook was this fat guy. He was a reporter. Why did we not research this?
I don't know.
Right, listen, I'm pulling out my data slate. I'm doing it. Can I have a data slate moment?
I feel hard done by watching. You've watched this, haven't you? You've definitely watched this episode of the Cook Report, aye?
You fucking bet I've
I
watched
feel
it.
a bit hard done by, and let me tell you why. Because we were initially excited to find out that the Cook Report was first aired in 1987, but we were even more excited to see that the third episode of the first series was called Close Encounters.
Close Encounters. There we go. Close Encounters. Look at that. That's been put. That's a wee. Fucking eyesight is terrible. A British ITV current affairs television programme presented by Roger Cook. Had to make it bigger for us, man. A New Zealand-born British investigator. He's still he's not in the grunt.
There's like three letters on the screen. The text is that big.
Can you believe that big boy's still in the grunt? He's still not in the grunt. He's still not in the grunt. He's above the grunt.
There's no way. He died years ago.
He's also from New Zealand. That's great. Thanks for that. Right, so we know he's still kicking a ball.
25 years.
He's a big unit, right?
Because I watched that first episode and I'm like, I don't even think he was involved with that show. Like, he was at the start and then he walked along a corridor at the end. But apart from that, it looked like all researchers that had done the job.
We chose this. We selected this because it was called Close Encounters, and obviously.
I know what you had in your head as well when we saw that. You had the same image as me. You were thinking the Y files. That you were thinking they're like
an alien encounter.
An alien encounter on an ultra low budget TV show. That's the kind of treat that you were hoping that you were going to get when you watched that.
Can I just interject here for a second? And this is something that I need to read. And this is from. This is going to sound like I'm reading a prepared statement for Guft, but this is actually my own opinion. Okay. Recently, you may be aware that a book was released on the mainstream market by Lou Elizondo, and this book's title is Imminent. By we, I mean I, would like to stress that there is no real evidence that it is imminent or that it will be imminent anytime soon. No, I was surprised that it was what it was actually about, Ryan.
So, Close Encounters basically translates into there's two houses in England who are get faulty like lecky supplies for the lecky boards.
Right, no, hold on.
Well, that's not the whole story. It's not the whole story.
Hold on a minute, because Ryan's no doing this justice. Ryan watched this and he messaged me. And he messaged me really disappointed, saying that it wasn't what he expected it to be, right?
Oh, no, I definitely found some highlights in it, but...
This delivered on every front. So, let's talk first of all about the Price family. Mr. Price.
The farmers.
Mr.
Like the
Price and his son,
farmer,
yeah.
That is the barest house I've ever seen. They had like a
Mr. Price
two-seater...
talks without ever opening his mouth, which is the most impressive thing about Mr. Price.
Oh, he never washes his hands either, by the looks of it.
Yeah, I wasn't sure whether that was this, but these are farmers. These are working people. You know what I mean? So Roger visits this family, the Price family.
Does he?
No, I don't
is he
know.
there?
I don't know if he is. But they're in Churchill, which is just outside Gloucester. Sounds like somewhere we might have a PO box. But and let me tell you something about this Mr. Price and his family's house. There has been 53 fires and 73 floods in this guy's house. Ryan, 53 fires and 73 floods.
floods. I know I wrote that down as well. This is right at the start of the programme. This has been divulged, so you don't really know what's happening. I've just wrote down these folk are quite careless. But it's alluded to later in the episode by some of the investigations that they did that there might be no accidents.
Well, the electricity board, when they got in touch and said, when they get in touch with the electricity board about their 73 floods, right? The electricity board were like, yous must be doing this yourself. I would just like to say that it's I'm not saying that nobody came to harm in this, because there was some harm caused, because Mr. Price does say at one point that a dog's pups, and I quote, 5 or 6 days old, died instantly.
Lots of occasions we've had young pups sort of 6-8 weeks old, and they've more or less died instantly.
The Price's home is close.
Listen, no harm to Mr. Price.
Oh, God. There is a weapons expert on the Cook report saying that it could be radar beams that's causing...
could be radar beams.
Be radar beam. A radar beam weapon could also have the same effect as 53 fires and 73 floods.
A guy for the electricity board that said there's no... He checked into it. He says there's no record of any power surges or anything like that. And I believe this guy because his name is Ralph Brain. So he knows what he's talking about. I like the bit where Mr. Price was up in his loft crouching over a wee fire that had happened in his loft. There was just a fire happened in his loft.
It was like we cut up bits of wire and stuff, like a wee campfire or something that had happened.
They were assisted by a guy. There was a guy called Jason Gillard who helped them out. He was an environmental health officer, and he believed the Price family when they said that some exterior force must be causing...
He makes the point, I think, that why would they make it up? So he was kind of standing behind that position. Why? It doesn't make any sense. And he's right, it doesn't make any sense.
The minute I met them, no harm to them, I would think they've made this up.
They need to get a telly or something, these people, because I think they've got too much time in their hands.
Mr. Price, I've written down here, Mr. Price blames experimental military work for his washing machine breaking down. They said at one point, so one guy, an expert comes, right, and he goes... Well, there might be something in this, because see if you stand at one end of the hallway and you look the length of the hallway and you look out the window, you can see a radio tower in the distance.
In the distance.
And he is not sure what the radio tower is.
Somebody gets called a former NASA scientist in it as well. I like that.
A former NASA scientist?
Former NASA scientist.
I think you'll find that this man's name is... I wrote this man's name down. That's Charles Jones, who's the polygraph test. The amount of notes I've taken on this, by the way. There's a weird American guy called Charles Jones who does a polygraph test on the family and says, no, they're all telling the truth. As we know now, we didn't know this in 1987, but polygraph tests are a lot of shite. We know that now. Another expert says at one point, by stretching your imagination to the limits, you could say that, he says, by stretching your imagination to the limits. That's what it needs.
That's him making an attempt to defend these people.
Yeah. And another guy says, you know, you're in the James Bond field now. Which I'm not sure what that means. The experts all think that they're talking shite.
Aye. Well, they examined the wires and they said that the wires were charged for the outside and no the inside. So it's a kind of giveaway. That's a wee bit of a giveaway.
Let's put this up because I know, look, I don't know if this is cruel or if it's not cruel. Look, it's already went out on telly, but there's a really unflattering shot of the polygraph wires across the Moz tits at one point.
What's going on with that Ma at that table when they're talking? She looks like she's having a mental breakdown at some point.
Yeah, there's a moment where something weird happens with the Ma.
And you can't see them, but you actually duck because the noise is so terrific.
Are you all right, Mrs. Price? And what effect does it have on people and animals?
Well, for a long time, it's been known that the effect on human beings can be quite complete and catastrophic.
So I have it in my memory that the Cook Report is like hard hitting, like gone up to guys called like Frank Bastard in the street who's like done old women out of money and stuff
It
like
does
that. But
become
this
that.
is pure farce.
It definitely does become that. So I wonder if it's like it started out like this and then he's went, no, fucking hold on, man.
Aye.
We're going to have to get serious here. Because at one point, all this story happens in just in a kind of house in a state. It's just like a house on a house in a state. And yet, at one point, Roger Cook's flying about in a helicopter. He's flying above.
But that's all he's in the programme. He's in at the very start and then he's in a helicopter and then he's walking down that corridor at the end. That's all that's happened. That's all his involvement as far as I can tell.
There's an incredible twist as well in the episode when we find out there's another house that has the same issues.
Yeah.
It also has a slightly weird guy living in the house, doesn't it? The son's a wee bit odd. He gets arrested.
Yeah, it does. And I loved the touch at the end where they let us know, the voiceover guy let us know that he didn't have to go back to prison next week.
Yeah.
They've just let him go.
It's a really odd one. Mike Newton for the Southwest Electricity Board is on it, and he's got a really an unexpectedly high voice. He had quite a high voice. I liked him.
We've installed sophisticated monitoring equipment to check the quality of the supply to the property.
And there's a fantastic reconstruction one point, which I would love us to show, which is of an old guy opening a door, just answering his door. They did a reconstruction of that.
Mm-hmm.
Well, there was a knock on the door. 5 gentlemen from the police came in.
It's a very, very odd episode of telly. It really has that kind of ITV vibe of we need to fill 24 minutes here of time and we need to just whatever you've got. ITV, listen, no harm to ITV. A lot of my favourite stuff was on ITV, but ITV always felt distinct for the BBC in that it did have that vibe about it of almost like a kind of freewheeling, kind of like, get something to fill this hour.
Was there no maybe something, I don't know enough to speak on this from a BBC standpoint, but was ITV no more like kind of regional things all connected to one another? So
Yeah.
There was it wasn't always like there was breakover shows that was just on the ITV that it was UK wide. There was always like different regions, as I say.
Aye. So you would get kind of oddball stuff that was maybe a regional show.
Because this doesn't
that
feel
would
like
go national.
this doesn't feel like a mainstream show.
No.
This feels like it's something that you would see on a local station sort of thing.
It genuinely had a vibe of our great friend Jerry McLaughlin once worked on a channel called Channel M in Manchester, where Jerry basically presented every telly programme.
He did a cooking show, he did a games show. Yeah. I think he was involved with the news and the sport.
He did a music show
late
at night. If you're a fan of Jerry McLaughlin, and most people that watch your work, they are fans of Jerry McLaughlin, then you should have watched Channel M, because that was basically like an entire channel that was devoted to him.
It was like the inside his head.
But he, it had that kind of vibe of a show that would be on that channel. David Baker is the name of the ex-NASA guy. Ex-NASA, this guy, right? An English guy. And one of his theories was that maybe the power output of a new radar device that was being tested could have created harmonic vibrations that unscrew pipes. A fucking guy for NASA?
Ex-guy for NASA. It doesn't give you any details on how he left the company.
He was the Johnny. We need to let this fucking Johnny go, man.
He's talking a load of shite.
He's talking a lot of shite. Now, late in the episode, we see Roger Cook in his natural habitat, sitting beside a microwave. They build a model of a wee kitchen and they put it in a microwave to see what will happen.
Yeah.
Just to test the theory that maybe giant microwaves have done this to these people's houses. I don't know what's going on with Mrs. Price, by the way. She does bow her head at one point. Does somebody ask if she's all right? Are you okay?
Aye, the interviewer asks, are you okay?
And she just starts to... There's something odd going on. At one point, they go to Swansea to meet a guy called Dr. Ray Macario, and he basically just tells them what to shut up. Because we don't talk about this. It's a lot of shite. The NASA guy again, I think it's the NASA guy again, who says that basically all these secret tests that are happening are turning the UK into a giant microwave cooker. And right at the end,
I mean, it was right. It was years ahead of his time.
He says, Ryan's sitting there saying Roger Cook's no in this show. I saw Roger Cook walking along a corridor for about 10 minutes.
Aye, that was the end of that. I think that's how they got their money's worth out of him, was just in that corridor.
He walks in silhouette down a long corridor, and then they go, this corridor isn't long enough for what we're trying to do here. Roger, get back up that corridor and come down it again. This is truly fucking shite. Truly garbage.
Aye.
But when he did, he used to doorstep people, right? He would go up to, Mr. Forbes, open your door. All that stuff.
Why are you such a cunt?
Yeah. Why are you stealing all these guys? Why are you firing microwaves into women's houses? No, it was...
I couldn't really get out, this might sound a bit heartless, but I couldn't really get out the state of the houses and just going, who gives a fuck if they burned down? Like, why does it matter?
But you know what I thought to me when I
anyway?
watched it? This is what all our houses looked like back then.
I know.
People's houses look like that. There was just a kind of... It's that time, everybody had linoleum in there. We all had lino in our kitchen.
You might have had enough chairs if a couple of people visited, but more often than not, somebody would have to stand up.
Aye, wood chip wallpaper and all that. Like, we all had that. We all had kind of... And it was also a time where it was like, you wouldn't go, well, the telly's coming and we'll tidy up the house or whatever. People just didn't have that... People didn't kind of project a false version of themselves.
Aye,
do you know what I mean?
Aye.
People were real.
The telly's coming around to film me. It's like
film me and my house as my house actually
and
is.
talking about my story, so that's what's happening.
Whereas now we'd go, TV people are coming 2 weeks to get our story. We need to get people in to work on our house so now get it all. I need to go and get my fucking.
I need to get into Turkey and get my teeth done.
Exactly. So it was a different time, and weirdly, there is a sense in this of Naham ITV or to Roger Cook. But this is exploitative telly. It's exploitative. It's going out to people who, at the very least, are kind of on... They're maybe just surviving and just getting by. My theory is there could have been something going on in the house. There might be a possibility these people were just trying to do this to get a bit of fucking money or I was thinking to myself, see, back in the day, people used to say a lot of stuff to try and get a move out of their house to another house or to a bigger house.
I know. I think the theory I would stick with is that things have been gone wrong and they couldn't find out what, and they've maybe exaggerated to try and get something
to try and get
get somebody to notice.
They might have owned their house. It might have been a council house, but there was a thing that we working class people used to have to do back in the day, where if you wanted a bigger house, sometimes you had to make up a fucking story about why you needed it out of your council house that you were in. So it might have been something like that. Of course, nobody suggested that as a theory. What they suggested instead was that a giant laser beam was getting fired across the country.
Radar, sonar, and screwing pipes.
So that was the Cook report. A show from a more innocent time, I would say. It was, it's worth.
Had its highlights. Aye.
It's worth watching all this.
Wasn't it what I was initially expecting? As I said at the start, I was hoping for kind of cheap party store kind of pretend police uniforms, which we've seen in TV shows before.
Yeah.
Like zero budget attempts at trying to reconstruct things. I'm a really big fan of, but it wasn't really like that.
It wasn't really like that.
There's interviews and poor people.
Yeah.
And Roger Cook walking down a corridor.
Yeah. It had a slightly exploitative tone, and also they just talked to a load of fucking nutters as well. Like the experts, quite frankly, were weirder than the families.
Can I talk about a game, please?
Yes, please talk about a game, Ryan.
I'll just talk about it all in the segment. Unless you remember the game, you very well might do it. It's well known on the Commodore Amiga. It's Test Drive.
Wow.
Good music. Look at that slick character. Oh, he's a way to pick up a lady. Something about this title sequence that really makes me want to smoke 20 Benson and Hedges. This racing game, just about racing game, driving game, on the Amiga is selling you the idea that what can be sexier than what? I mean, why go through the hassle of owning your own Porsche or Ferrari Testarossa, that's just a bloody nightmare. You need to get it insured. Why not just go for a test drive? I've driven a Ferrari Testarossa. This is what it's like. There's a cloud in that sky as well. That is unbelievable. What a game. I genuinely do remember thinking that. What a game. How is this possible? Look at this speed. I'm in my bedroom. How is this being achieved? Me and my cousin played this game for hours. Getting a shot each a day, just doing this. There's only about 4 colours on screen now. 5? 4 or 5 colours. What were we doing? Well, you know what we were doing? We were going for a test drive. In test drive, you just drive and try not to make any mistakes until it tells you that you don't need to drive anymore. Like that. You don't need to do it and it just does it for you. Crashes aren't that traumatic in this, they're quite soothing actually. Now, if you get all the way back to the dealership, you look inside your glove box and you'll find a note, and the note says, "Nice job, keep the car, go home." So you just have a successful test drive and the dealer is just having a fantastic day, and he says, "You know what, I don't need that car, that Ferrari Testarossa anymore, I've got too many of them. I'm just going to give it to this guy because that guy was a flawless driver on the Amiga, that guy." So you just get the car. So I thought the point of the moral of the game was that test driving was better than owning the car, but now you own the car anyway. Go home. As soon as I saw the cover, test drive, I got a instant nostalgia. Like, not only did I have it, I had a boxed version of test drive, and I think it was one of the. Well, that is definitely one of the early Amiga games, so even though it was years later that I would have been playing it on the Amiga, it's one of the kind of mainstays of people's collection. It was one of the early things that everybody seemed to see. Before the marketplace got a bit busier, it was one of the Amiga games that a lot of people seem to have had experience with. Yeah. I loved it. I really loved it.
The impressive thing was that people would go on test drives back then, and how did they know where to go? How did they know?
You just ask people.
Oh, mate, where's this test drive? Go on.
Oh, what team do you support, pal?
Just to talk on a more broad level about 1987 and about the Commodore 64, I had a very, very vivid memory of a wee set of screwdrivers that I had, right? And the wee set of screwdrivers I had, so my granda, who,
is this all the same story?
Yeah. Who is in the grun just now, right? My granda, but was also in the grun then, right? But he was a guy who could build things, make radios and stuff. He could build radios. That was his thing. I think that was what his job was. And he was a type of guy people would bring stuff into the house and he'd fix things, like a kind of electrician guy. But he could.
My granda was an electrician as well.
Yeah, I mean, people had trades back then.
He had, my granda was, like, he had all these, I don't know if it's still a thing, probably is a thing with, like, mechanical minded type of people, but my granda's house was always full of stuff, just bits and pieces and like rubber things and metal things and wooden things.
And things you didn't.
Loads of bits and bobs that you wouldn't. We look at them and you don't even see
stuff that had that smell.
Aye, wee greasy.
See when I smell like that kind of metallic, like the smell of metal or the smell of nickel or something like that. That makes me think about my granda because he had all these tins and tins of like
big horns,
wee parts and stuff. No, my granda. My recollection of my granda is I'm having wee horns actually. You know what I mean? But he was an old man. My mum, it was a very vague memories of him because he died when I was so young. So he was a wee small man by the time he died. He was in his 80s. But he had wee tools and he had wee screwdrivers. He had a wee set of wee tiny screwdrivers, and it was those same wee screwdrivers I would use on my Commodore 64 data set to do the.
I think you're talking to the telly, Rob. You should be talking to the camera.
So I was just looking at myself.
I know, but it just looks weird because you're talking.
Hold on.
See if you talk to that. Hang on. That one now.
Hold on, point at it.
That one. Point at the right one.
Hold on, let me see. Yeah. Can't see myself in there though.
I know, that's how it works. You can't see yourself.
Right, okay. Is that what you have been looking in that one as well?
No, I'll look at that one out there.
Right, okay.
Or look at me, if that's easier as well. That's more natural, because if you look at the telly, you're not looking
I
at
can't
it.
see myself properly in that one. I can see myself in this one.
You can try it. So what is it you use the screwdrivers to make your...
I remember these wee screwdrivers, but I would use it in the Commodore 64 data set. There would be this wee screw that you would... It's almost like... I still don't know how it works. It's like all these years later, I don't know why you would turn this wee screw to load in tapes properly. But sometimes when a tape never loaded, you would get a wee twist. You would get a wee twist and...
you're like tuning it, you mean?
Yeah, it's like tuning it, but why would you tune it? I think it's adjusting the heads so that the heads were closer to the tape or further away from the tape or something. But I used to use my granddad's wee screwdrivers to do that. But that's like a thing, like you could never have that physical connection with games these days. You could never have that physical connection where it was like, I used my grandfather's... You use your grandfather's what today? You can't use your grandfather's anything.
Drivers to try and get my fucking graphics card to work on my PC.
Yeah, I mean, and that's not going to
Not
work.
the same,
Your
is it?
granddad's Voodoo 3. Can't even put a Voodoo 3 in a fucking...
I don't know what that
thing
is.
anymore, if that is a
What
thing.
that is.
But yeah, just that memory of just having what am I even trying to say here? I'm just saying that when you played games back then, you had specific kind of physical objects that you used to make things happen, you know? And those things could be really personal to you as well, because obviously you didn't even need to use an official Commodore data set to load your games either. You could use any tape recorder, you know? You could use any tape recorder. It's like...
People did.
Yeah. The cool thing is, like, I've got...
Yeah, that's a good point, actually. I'm thinking now all the different tape players that I had hooked up to the computer. I had like full-on like hi-fis wired up to my Spectrum at times.
Exactly. So it's like these days, if you talk about, like in 20 years' time, when we talk about memories of people playing the PlayStation 5, for example, everybody will kind of have similar memories of what that is, the hardware they used and stuff like that. But your memory of playing the Spectrum will be specific to you. Just like my memory of playing the Commodore 64 is very specific to me, because nobody else in the UK was using my granddad's wee screwdrivers that he used all through his life to make Samantha Fox's Strip Poker run. So there's a direct connection between my granda and Samantha Fox's Big Diddies.
Tuning the Big Diddies. 1987, Gordon Gould was granted a US patent for the laser, ending his 30-year battle to be recognised as inventor. So
I hope he wasn't firing that laser anywhere near Gloucester.
At the houses in Gloucester, aye.
Anywhere near Gloucester.
What a coincidence.
Is it okay if I talk about just have one more kind of casual chat about a game? Is that all right? I don't want to overload.
I can read out one more headline.
Yeah, go for it.
I'll try and find my favourite, because there's some belters in 1987. May 29th, Michael Jackson attempts to buy the remains of the Elephant Man.
Was that 1987?
1987. I know, I feel like I remember. Maybe I think that story just stuck around for so many years that you go, fucking, in 1987 he did that.
Because obviously he'll be recording bad probably in 1987.
If he's had so much surgery by that, he'll be doing everything a bit worse.
Yeah, everything's going to be going... Everything's... Well, do you remember when his hair went on fire?
I saw it on that show, aye. Right.
So Michael Jackson was filming a Pepsi advert and his hair went on fire. His hair literally went on fire.
His whole head went on fire.
And that was really where his trouble started. I feel as if that's an explanation for a lot of people's behaviours. See, if you said, I'm sure if Hitler said, if Hitler had been captured and hadn't shot himself in that bunker, if he did, right? But if he'd been captured and they says to him, what do you do this for? This is really bad what you did. He says, well, I was filming an advert in 1924 and my hair went on fire.
They were using this hairspray that they used diesel to make the hairspray, and I never realised how flammable my head was.
That's the kind of things they used to put. I used to use inset hairspray when I was a wee guy, and it really made your hair go spiky. But there was a wee boy in Grange Hill with spiky hair who had a lassie's fancy. He was a bit of a bad boy, and that's why I used to spike my hair when I was a wee guy. I used inset hairspray, and it made your hair go rock solid. Now I'll get no fucking hair, probably because of that inset.
July 15th, Boy George is banned for a British TV show. It suggested that it would be a bad influence on audiences. Right.
That feels really late. Is that a homophobic thing, or is it Is it?
And well, I mean, he's also cross-dressing as well, isn't he? Boy George, he's just kind of doing his own thing, so people are like...
He also, he also had issues with drugs, didn't he, as well? So I wonder if
he
it was
couldn't
more
get
related
any,
to that. Because he definitely was
much.
on TV a lot, wasn't he?
Well, he would go on the music show. I don't know what show it is that's banned him. It's probably some breakfast TV thing or something. I don't know.
That's where all the pervs walk back.
Behind the scenes. Behind the scenes.
Your boy George, he's still kicking a boy, still doing well, man. Boy George, fair play to him.
Is he after drugs?
Oh, long after drugs, long time ago. He straightened himself up, was touring the world.
Straightened himself up?
Well, not quite. Micro League Wrestling, I would just like to have a wee quick shout out to, which was a wrestling game that I used to run on the Commodore 64 disc drive. You could choose moves and stuff like that. It was Ron.
I don't remember that.
Yeah, it was Ron.
It
had kind of digitised images of wrestling matches.
Interesting question. I don't think I've asked you before. What is your earliest memories of wrestling games? Mine is like arcade WWF, I think.
Yeah, it will have been arcade stuff.
In terms of like things that I played, I think it's as late as N64 before I can say that I got into wrestling games.
I definitely played stuff on the Commodore 64. Nothing was good. And then it was probably when my nephew got an NES and he had WWF Superstars on that. That was probably my first contact with proper wrestling games. We need to acknowledge, the game I want to talk about those, we need to acknowledge Head Over Heels. Let's jump to a quick bit about Head Over Heels because it is 1987 and that's when it came out on the Commodore 64.
Head Over Heels is a masterpiece by John Rittman and Bernie Drummond. It was originally programmed on the Spectrum, but let's not hold that against it, am I right, Ryan? Some might argue the Commodore 64 port of the game was as good as or even better than anything else ever made. The Virgin Zap Zap 64 magazine gave it a whopping 98% out of 100. The game is about two wee animals, one a head and one a feet. They work together to escape a labyrinth of puzzles and platforms. The game does not hold any other esoteric secrets. It is purely a form of entertainment. What a game, but am I right, Ryan? Hey lads, come on now. We all loved Head Over Heels. In fact, I, Rab, am head over heels in love with it. Open bracket, that's enough hyphen ed, close bracket.
Right, so Ryan, will we get to it? The main event.
Cool.
The main event of the evening.
The flick. We're taking a trip to the cinema.
We're taking a trip to the cinema. 1987. Now, Ryan, you're going to be doing a lot of the heavy lifting here.
How so?
I'll tell you why you're going to be doing a lot of the heavy lifting, because I am too close to this.
Well, here's the setup. You were keen to talk about this film because you have memories of it and you were fond of it. I've never seen it before.
Yeah, I have like the framed film poster of this on my wall in the house. I absolutely love this film. I was thinking about it. I was saying, where does it come in my list? It's maybe top 5 for me, films of all time. That's how much I love it. That's how much I love it.
Okay.
And the film is called Moonstruck.
When the moon hits your eye like a big pizza pie, that's amore.
It's a film starring Cher, Nicolas Cage, Danny Aiello, Olympia Dukakis, directed by Norman Jewison. Norman Jewison also directed Jesus Christ Superstar, which, listen, you can all shut up, it's a total belter of a film. He directed Injustice for All with Pacino, directed In the Heat of the Night and all that kind of stuff. A great director.
I've written down John Patrick Shanley. Is that the writer?
He's the writer. He's the writer of the screenplay.
He also had a look online, realised that he wrote and directed the film Doubt. Have you seen that?
What a film.
Aye, with Meryl Streep. And
yeah. So he's a playwright. He's a playwright, and as much as whatever you want to say about this film, right? Whether you want to talk about the performances, whether you want to talk about the direction, whether you want to talk about the music, whatever you want to talk about, John Patrick Shanley's script for this film is what it's all about. Because this has got to be one of the best scripts ever written, I think. I've read it multiple times. I've studied it like it's homework, this script, because every word of dialogue in this film is unreal. But I want to throw it to you, Ryan, because again, all I would do is just talk about how brilliant it is.
Everybody pays lip service, and everybody always says that you can't have like great cinematic works of art without the script first. That's where it starts. But I think there's a consistency of kind of vibrancy in the film that you definitely wouldn't have if it wasn't for the script. I think the performers and everything are brilliant, and it's really well directed. Everything's spot on. But it's the script that is the trunk and the branches that allows that consistency of liveliness that the film has.
Well, it has an energy that's totally unique to it. What the setup of the film is, Cher plays a lassie called Loretta who has been unlucky in life and in love before, and she's about to get married to Danny Aiello's character, a guy called Mr. Johnny.
Before you go any further, I feel as if there's a bit more, like, because they do make the point about like how important family is, but there's something about, I don't know how to put this best. There's something about how there doesn't seem to be any lone figures in it. There's an interconnectivity in the film. There's a real community and interconnectivity in the film that helps this vibrancy.
Yeah.
It's the setting, I suppose, and it's the type of characters, but there's a real familyness and togetherness and community, and there doesn't seem to be any outsiders in the film.
No, so it's set in the kind of Italian American community, and it is a really kind of tight community, but it also has the film has a weird energy about it, which is almost like Ryan said, it's like every character kind of exists in parallel with other characters. It's almost like a kind of view of the world. It's like you say, like everybody is interconnected. Even people that feel alone or feel unlucky have all these myriad of kind of connections with each other.
The way, like, if you look at the trajectory and the storyline of Danny Aiello, you could, like, there's so many other ways that you could have handled the film and made the film where you got to the end of his story and went, oh God, that's tragic.
Yeah.
But you kind of don't. You still have this feeling of, like, well, oh, that's no ideal, but he's still, he's still in the midst of everybody else, and, probably you get this sense of we'll figure things out. To get together, we'll figure things out.
And he is, and there's a plain speaking in this film, because so Cher's character, and this is the other thing as well, I don't really want to spoil, even though it's no, like, this isn't the kind of story where it's like it has big twists and it spoils things, but there is like loads of stuff I don't want to spoil, because it's quite a surprising film in its own way as well. But Loretta's meant to marry Danny Aiello's character, right? I'm really struggling with Danny Aiello's name in this episode, But Cher's character is going to marry Danny Aiello's character. And
for a while, I was a wee bit excited because I haven't seen Danny Aiello. Of course, I haven't seen Danny Aiello as a main character in that many films. He's always playing these, like, brilliantly playing these bit parts, these supporting roles.
Yeah, he's a brilliant character actor who has ended up a supporting actor in a lot of the fucking best films ever made, if you ask me, you know what I mean?
But it looks for a while like, I mean, I knew for the cover of the film, obviously, that Nicolas Cage was coming, but for a while it looked kind of set up like Danny Aiello could be the main character and could easily carry the film. Because
could be the main character. Could be. You could have followed him over there and been with him. Mm-hmm. So he says he wants his brother to come to the wedding, and he says to Loretta, Cher's character, he says, could you go and see my brother and ask him to come to the wedding? That's essentially the setup for the film, right? That's essentially for the setup for the film. And Nick Cage's character, Ronnie, no, it's a film like this, and it's films like Raising Arizona that will always have me a Nicolas Cage fan. You know what I mean? I love Nicolas Cage. But Nicolas Cage's performance in this film is as good in the way that people pretend Nicolas Cage's performances are in films nowadays. That's no fair, right? That's no fair. But I'm just saying that because I saw Longlegs recently and I really hated it. But Nicolas Cage in this film is just superb. It's a game. It's a film. It's a game. It's a film about love, essentially, and about. And
I really, really enjoyed them both, Cher and Nicolas Cage, but in completely different ways.
Yeah. It's a film about love and in the very real sense. It's a hugely romantic film, but romantic, almost like it's weird because it's kind of magically romantic without being naive. You know what I mean? It's romantic without being simple-minded about its romance, and yet still manages to retain that kind of sense of magic about it. Because in this film, you have, the
romances. It's never first romances, is it? It's always.
Well, there's no young characters in this film, really. Nicolas Cage is young, obviously.
Been through the mill, to one degree or the other. I thought, I've forgotten the actor's name, but the guy that plays Fraser's dad, Fraser, I thought he was
John Mahoney.
Brilliant as well.
John Mahoney just plays this small character. And by the way, there's no small characters in this film. Like, every character you feel like could have a film focused on them. But John Mahoney plays this older man.
It has an aspect to that kind of stage play.
Yeah.
Kind of vibrancy again. There's a very lively aspect to the performances.
It's like a big ensemble piece.
Yeah.
And John Mahoney is this kind of older guy who you see popping up occasionally, who's dating these.
You're always in the same restaurant, is he no?
Yeah. Dating women that are too young for him and stuff. And there's a beautiful moment when Danny Aiello's character is down on his knees proposing to Loretta in a restaurant. He's in the restaurant and he sees Danny Aiello on his knees and he says to the waiter, "Is that guy praying?" It's just a beautiful, and it's full of these amazing wee moments, amazing wee lines.
That scene is really, really good.
Well, that restaurant scene, you immediately know you're watching a brilliant film. I think with Moonstruck, it's like it goes straight into it. You kind of go, "This is something special here," because there's just so much going on, just so many wee dynamics going on, and every wee character every character's got a good line. There's no character in this film that just serves to move the story forward. For example, when Loretta goes to meet Ronnie, right, her fiance's brother, to try and get him to come to the wedding, there's one of the greatest scenes in film history where Nicolas Cage immediately goes into this big performance about how much he's been wronged in life. This is the type of film where characters can shout, "What is life?" and all of that. It's like characters don't just speak to each other in this. It's almost as if they're making statements out to the universe all the time.
I think I'd written down, I think it's the very end of that speech. It's also, I've written down that it's 25 minutes into the film before you see Nicolas Cage.
Yeah.
But at the end of that speech he says, "Is it just a matter of time?"
Is it just a matter of time before a man opens his eyes and gives up his one dream? His one dream of happiness?
So good, really, really good.
But
I've barely written any notes of the film because
there's a lassie who works with Nicolas Cage's character, right? At one point, Ronnie calls for a knife because he's going to slit his throat in front of Cher, right? Because of how he feels. And then at the end of this scene, this lassie that works for him says, "This is the most tormented man I've ever known. I'm in love with this man." And so even she's got a story. Even this lassie, who we barely see in it, she's got a story, right? And also just the two lines, "This is the most tormented man I've ever known. I am in love with this man." It's like it's like Shakespeare. It's like a declaration out to an audience or to the universe or to, and it has.
It's almost like a thinking like. It's like it's been written, no just thinking, what does this person look like and stuff like that. It's also like, how can I succinctly express something about this person that makes them recognisable and connectable, sort of thing.
Yeah.
Aye. It's really, really well written.
There's a moment when so Loretta's fiance, Mr. Johnny goes back to Sicily because his mother's dying on her deathbed, right?
That's so funny.
And
All that stuff.
All that stuff. And she sees him away, right, on the plane. And when she's watching the plane leave, there's an old woman beside Loretta, right? And this old woman goes, have you got somebody on that plane? And she goes, aye. And she says, I've cursed that plane. I've put a curse on that plane to explode and crash into the Atlantic, right? Which is just fucking hilarious. I thought of somebody saying that to you, right? An old woman who looks like she might be able to put curses on things. But then there's this beautiful moment at the end where when she finishes this tirade about her sister, this old woman's talking about her sister. I hate my sister. She stole a man for me, and then she told me she didn't even love him. She just did it to get one who on me. I want the plane to explode, and she's going to die in a watery grave and all of that. And then Cher's character says, well, I don't believe in curses. And the old woman goes, neither do I. It's a beautiful, it's like a fucking self-contained scene which says so much. You've got this woman like putting this curse on her sister, not, but she knows that nothing's actually going to happen to her and doesn't want actually anything to happen to her, but again is just expressing it to the universe, some pain, some agony, some heartbreak she's got in her. Yeah, I mean, Nicolas Cage's whole...
And also giving you another opportunity to see somebody for other generations, like still having this emotional mix.
Still having a fire in them.
Still having that, aye. Passion.
Because there's a couple of people that work in a shop, right? There's Lottie and Irv that work in the shop. And they're not really characters that have anything to do with the film or whatever, but Cher goes into the shop to get something and they're having an argument and she's like, I seen you looking at this woman and all that, and you had a wolf in your eyes when you're looking at her, which helps establish stuff later about passion and stuff like that, so it does have a purpose. But then they're having this big heated argument, this man and wife that work in this shop, and then it just turns round, you know, the man says something to her that just kind of reminds her of how much she loves him, and it just comes round to this lovely warmth, this kind of affection. It just kind of feels like a really...
Are you talking about the off sales?
Yeah, I'm talking in the, you know, the wee argument they have in the...
I was definitely paying attention to the dialogue and the acting and stuff, but I was also looking at that off sales and going, off sales don't look like that anymore. No. There's no plexiglass in that off sales.
Every scene, I promise you, every scene you watch in this film, you'll go, whoa, what an amazing line. At least once. Even, you know, Loretta comes into the house and her dad's sitting on the couch, the ma's up in bed sleeping and he's not up in his bed sleeping. She says, you know, sleepy? He says, I can't sleep anywhere. It's too much like death. It's a fucking beautiful line for an older character. She says, I've got news, and he goes, let's go to the kitchen, which is that observation about how families kind of get together in the kitchen to kind of talk about their important stuff. She has a crappy ring on her finger that Mr. Johnny gave her, and she goes, look, she's explaining it away by going, it's temporary, and her dad goes, everything's temporary, don't excuse nothing. It's great, man. It's just constant great lines. But the crew,
a lot of hand gestures in this film.
A lot of
funny hand gestures.
A lot of hand gestures. And then you have that, you know, the torment that Ronnie is missing a hand, can't deal with the hand gesture stuff.
Yeah.
The crucial thing where Cher's character's mother asks her about Mr. Johnny, her fiance, do you love him? And she says no. And she says, well, good, because when you love them, they drive you crazy because they know that they can, right? Which is a fucking beautiful thing, because I think it's like that thing where a lot of people have relationships where they kind of work and they're nice and they continue in them, but the love and that kind of passion isn't there, you know? And this is before she meets Ronnie, who's just... How could you not fall in love with that character, though? How could you not fall in love with Cher's character as well?
I thought her performance was... I haven't seen her in that many things. I'm sure I've seen that. Is it Mask? Was she in Mask?
Yes.
Aye.
You must have seen Mermaids as well.
I'm sure I have, but not in many years. But I don't remember being kind of taken aback by her performance, but I was a bit taken aback by the performance in this. She's just so naturalistic and so believable.
She won the Oscar for it.
Did she?
She won the Oscar for it.
That makes sense.
Olympia Dukakis won the Oscar for supporting her mom, won that actress, best supporting actress, and he won for best screenplay as well. Yes. It's super romantic, super magical. I find it really quite sad as well. There's a kind of sadness through it. I think it's because it is kind of about human frailty as well. It's like about...
as I say, there's none of the relationships are like naive. It's no like first loves. It's always like after some pain and suffering has been experienced.
Yeah.
Even close to the end of the film, I think, is it... I'm sure it's Nicolas Cage that says a man's life is built on nothing. Or is it Danny Aiello who says that?
Oh no, it's the Da. It's the Da.
Oh, it's the Da.
Cosmo says it.
That says it.
And go to confession.
A man understands one day that his life is built on nothing. And that's a bad, crazy day.
Your life is not built on nothing. Ti amo.
Anch'io ti amo.
At the midpoint of the film, the moon comes out and everything kind of changes.
Cosmo's moon.
Yeah, Cosmo's moon comes out and everything changes. You've got Raymond, who is looking out to the moon, and his wife observes that in that light he looks about 25 years old. It's a beautiful thing about long relationships. Again, it's that thing, there's no young people in this film really. Nicolas Cage, who's kind of feels like he's playing, he's a wee bit young for his part. He feels like he's kind of playing a wee bit older. But it's just a perfect fit, you know what I mean? But that's as young as it gets in this film. Everybody else has got years on them. And I love that line that I think it's Raymond that says, the pleasure of marriage is you sleep with a woman and don't worry about nothing. You know what I mean? It's a beautiful line. It's just full of beautiful lines. But my favourite bit, man, right, is when Nicolas Cage... is when Nicolas Cage's character... Where is the telly?
That's the thing you're looking at.
Right, sorry. Is that my camera there?
Look at your own face.
Is that my camera?
Aye, that
right. I'm nervous now. My favourite bit is when Ronnie says that he does this. He's trying to talk her back into bed again. He's trying to talk Loretta into bed. And she said, no, we can't do this and all of that kind of stuff. And he says, snowflakes, I've written it down because I love it so much. Snowflakes are perfect. Stars are perfect. No us. We're here to ruin ourselves and break our hearts and love the wrong people and die. That's just fucking incredible writing. It's just, I can't recommend it enough. Like, even just watching it again, I actually said to myself, maybe I don't need to watch it again because I know it so well. Like, I know it almost like off by heart. And then I thought to myself, yeah, I'm just going to watch it again. It's always good to have an excuse to watch it. And I just loved it again, was kind of surprised by it again. Felt sometimes there's lines so good in it that they kind of make me emotional just hearing the line, kind of, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Even the John Mahoney's scene with Olympia Dukakis and stuff like that later, it's just, there's so many beautiful bits in it. And like, it's really worth you can get the script online as well. You can download the script and have a read. It's really worth reading the script as well. It's quite interesting to watch the film while you're reading the script and see the wee moments where they do kind of play around with the words a wee bit and stuff like that. But overall, it's like, it's all there on the page. Do you know what I mean? It's really an amazing thing.
Yeah, I thought it was really, really fun, really zingy and alive and funny and, as you say, emotional and quite wise as well.
Yeah, I think that the memory of the film, the kind of cultural memory of the film, is kind of that it's a romantic comedy with Cher and Nicolas Cage in it, and it's no. But I don't know if there's enough people that know that it has this kind of offbeat, kind of very almost has a kind of mystical feel to it. And again, the way, you know, it's not really naturalistic dialogue. It's not like,
no,
it doesn't feel it doesn't feel
totally to its benefit.
It doesn't feel real necessarily. It's that thing, every character's making statements and declarations out to the world, which I was thinking to myself, if this film, like, could this film come out nowadays? I don't know if, I just can't imagine a film like Moonstruck even being able to go to the cinema and see a film like that nowadays.
I've not seen a film as good as that in the cinema in quite a number of years.
But yeah, I mean, definitely the best film of 1987, if you ask me. That's Moonstruck.
I'd need to look into that, but I did really, really, really enjoy it. Before we go, Rob, I'm just going to say, just so that there's an edit point here, Ryan put in the Rainbow Islands bit here.
It is. I always forget that Rainbow Islands is titled Rainbow Islands, The Story of Bubble Bobble 2. So there is actually a plot here that ties this game to Bubble Bobble, because this is actually the same characters seemingly for Bubble Bobble, but they've transformed into these fat lads. These wee fat Austrian lads. What's actually ironic, and you probably won't have heard this anywhere else in any other game show, but what's actually ironic is that these lads, these Austrian lads here that are firing out these rainbows, are actually known homophobes. And it's like a curse to them that they're firing out rainbows. Every time he fires out a rainbow, he's absolutely fucking livid. Only the death of living things keeps him on an even keel. He's so raging about the rainbows. I was blissfully unaware of all of that subplot when I originally played Rainbow Islands on the Amiga. I only remember the good times. What a good time I had with this. What a fun game it is. Lovely and colourful. You can speed up your rainbows. You can get more rainbows. You're travelling for the bottom to the top of the screen is what you're doing in Rainbow Islands. That's basically that's the gimmick. There's a rising tide that's coming up. I think it's a metaphor for capitalism, I'm not sure. I think it is. But if you let the water catch up with you, hands here all drown. Well, it's tempting to let the wee fucking Nazi drown, but it does mean that you'll get a game over and you won't get all the tasty treats at the end of the level. I don't know what you see when you're looking at these graphics, because you don't see the same thing as me. All I see are memories. I have no criticisms to make of this game. I think it's absolutely wonderful, and I cherish the time that I spent playing it. And it makes me want to say something like, you wouldn't get a game like this nowadays. I don't know if it's true, but it makes me want to say it. You wouldn't get a game like this nowadays. You certainly wouldn't get a main character like that wee Nazi prick anyway.
Wow. Big fan of Rainbow Islands. So, Ryan, is there anything else you can tell us about 1987 before we head off into...
I'll just make sure there's no any important headlines that I've definitely missed it. I'll just check. Margaret Thatcher's third term, we did that last
That's exciting.
Margaret Thatcher gets in for a third term. Stock market crash. Stock market experienced a crash in 1987. Yeah, it's just a
see if I could go back to 1987. See if I could go back to 1987, I'd buy a whole load of Bitcoin.
I don't think you could. Bruce Springsteen's Tunnel of Love comes out. 9th album.
See if I could go back to 1987. I would buy a whole load of cryptocurrency.
But you couldn't. Anyway.
Somebody must be selling it.
Do you want to read out Deed People?
I would invent AI. If I went back to 1987, I'd make a fortune. See if I went back to 1987, I'd invent Amazon. I would go, it's a webs. People would say, we only invent websites first. And then I'd do that, then I'd invent websites, then I'd invent cryptocurrency, then I'd invent Amazon. Then I'd run for president. Then I'd start a rocket ship company. And then I tell you actually, I'd get into lip fillers. I'd just do Botox and lip fillers. I'd start a Botox lip fillers company. I'd do Brazilian butt lifts.
Do you not want to be involved with ruining people's lives with social media as well while you're at it?
I want to do that. I'd invent Facebook. I'd invent Facebook. I'd invent Pornhub.
Thanks for that.
You'd make a fucking fortune if
I
you
don't
launched.
think they make any money.
See if you launched Pornhub in 1987 though, you'd make a fortune.
Yeah, that's true.
Of course, you'd need to just post it to people. But what you could do is, right, see if you set up Pornhub in 1987,
right.
you could phone up, right? So maybe there'd be a number you could phone up and you could say, for example, I don't know, like Aurora Snow Gangbang.
Don't know what that is.
Near there, right? But you'd say it into the phone.
If you were phoning up those that no more likely, it no make more financial sense for you if it's your business that you're talking about here to keep them on the phone as long as possible. So you know what, to run them through the categories first. Or what
Aye, so they would phone up and I would read the most popular categories out. MILF,
Tractor
Gangbang, MILF,
MILF XL,
Stepmom, MILF XL, Stepmom.
Interracial midget, MILFs,
breasts. Read them out. Keep going, and then person would go that one, and then you'd print it off, or you'd record it onto a VHS video cassette or a Betamax if they've still got a Betamax.
You could maybe get an audio only version with a tape.
Yeah.
Pull out, maybe have a pull out paper.
Send it to them. post it to them, you'd get it, and you need to just
within 28 days, easy.
Keep your erection for 28 days.
Mm-hmm.
Get you sorted out.
Do you want to do the obituary?
Yeah. Who died?
Are you going to make any noise when I'm doing this?
No, I'm actually just going to silently reflect on it.
Chip in if you've got into ads. Ray Bolger.
Oh, Ray Bolger of the Wizard of Oz fame.
Wizard of Oz.
See, there's a rumour that goes about that. Oh, Ray Bolger played the Scarecrow, right?
That's correct.
Ray Bolger played the Scarecrow, and I think there was rumours that went about that it was something. Was it asbestos or something like? Anyway,
in the face paint or something.
Yeah,
like that,
no, it was lead in the Tin Man's face paint.
That's
that was
what
the
it
thing.
was, aye.
But there's always these stories about how they get very, and then all these people lived. Ray Bolger lived to a good old age. He must have been old.
Bladder cancer he died of, so I don't see how that would be related to anyway.
No.
But obituaries: Andy Warhol, Rita Hayworth, Bob Fosse.
Rita Hayworth.
Bob Fosse.
Hold on. This is big and bad, right? All this
Big
stuff.
and bad.
So who did you say before Rita Hayworth? I have something to say about that as well.
Andy Warhol.
Andy Warhol, right, rotten. Rita Hayworth. Rita Hayworth, one of the most beautiful women who ever lived.
Well, that's well known to be the best and most important attribute of the female of the species, so she'll be flattered to hear that up in heaven. Bob Fosse.
All right, but she's also a great actress. Don't fucking do that. I'm just saying that she was one of the most beautiful women who ever lived. Bob Fosse, a genius, a giant. Bob Fosse is the director of my favourite film of all time.
What a talent that man was.
The director of my favourite movie of all time. If you ask me, the best movie ever made, All That Jazz, directed by Bob Fosse.
Right up until you said All That Jazz, I wasn't actually sure what you were going to say, because you could have.
Because I could have said Cabaret.
You could have said Cabaret.
Exactly. An absolute genius.
Even Lenny is like, I don't see many people saying it's their favourite, but it's fucking brilliant.
Yeah.
Like, it's a brilliant film.
He is an absolute, what a loss, man. We mourn these. Listen, let's pour one out for Bob Fosse.
I need to go to the toilet.
No, don't go to the toilet. We'll pour one out for Fosse. If anybody hasn't seen All That Jazz, we won't be covering it on this show because unfortunately it predates the years that we're covering.
1979.
All That Jazz is the best film ever made, if you ask me. It's a true masterpiece. And we praise you, Bob Fosse. We love you. And we thank you for all your work.
Good job on your life
in the field of entertainment. And we know you were a troubled man. We know you were a bit of a shagger. We know you were into the drugs. We know you were into the booze. We know you made some mistakes in your life. But my God, you fucking rode that horse until its wheels came off.
Right. James Baldwin, Randolph Scott, Lee Marvin, Jackie Gleason.
I'm Lee Marvin now, man. I had my lunch, man. I'm fucking Lee Marvin.
Jackie Gleason, Fred Astaire.
Fred Astaire, pour one out. Let's pour one out for Fred Astaire.
I need to go to the toilet, Rob.
One of the greatest, pour that in. One of the greats of all time. Oh, Fred Astaire. Listen, props to Fred Astaire, not just for the great movies, the dancing, but also for a Ghost Story as well.
Congratulations on your life, Fred Astaire.
Congratulations on your. We know you weren't there, shagger. We know you weren't there into the drugs. We know you weren't there, a big boozer. But my God, did you ride that horse until the wheels fell off?
Liberace, Henry Ford II.
Right, pour one out for Liberace, man. Pour one out for Liberace. What a boy
really
he was.
Busting, Rob. I'm busting.
Pour it in.
Yeah.
What a boy he was, oh Liberace. Let me tell you something. Listen, there's got to be entertainers who appeal to everybody, and let's don't forget Liberace's appearance at WrestleMania. There's nobody else in this list that appeared at WrestleMania, so fucking fair play to you, big man.
Right.
Keep kicking a ball up there wherever you are.
Rode it to the wheels. Peter Tosh, Patrick Troughton, Will Sampson.
Patrick Troughton, great Doctor Who.
One of the best.
My dad's favourite Doctor Who, Patrick Troughton.
Will Sampson, Chogram Trimpa, and Primo Levi. And Primo Levi.
See Danny Aiello again.
Danny Aiello.
Well, that was CVXX. That was 1987. Next episode, we're going to be hurtling right down the throat of 1988.
Clicking the clock strikes again, clicks over one more year, 1988.
1988.
I believe the year of the Glasgow Garden Festival, if memory serves.
Lots of memories are going to be coming up. The year Michael Jackson released Bad.
Love Sexy comes up.
What a year. what a year it's going to be. Some great movies, some great games, and every year that we get closer and closer to the PlayStation coming out, to N64, we're getting closer and closer to all the great days. You stay with us. Remember, Patreon, subscribe, you'll get all the extra stuff, like and subscribe us.
Please hit that subscribe if you can see it. Whatever you're looking, whatever sphere you're look, hit the subscribe.
Spread the word. Write a letter into the Reader's Digest. Write a letter into the People's Friend, telling them that like you've been watching CVXX and these boys. Listen, say what you want about them, but they've been riding that horse until the wheels fell off. We'll catch you next month.